I had a late-term pregnancy loss. My grandpa passed, and he personally requested my son to be in his obituary. About a year and a half ago, my husband and I were expecting our first child, a little boy. Tragically, we lost him late in the pregnancy. Last week, my grandpa passed away. We didn't see each other often, maybe just 3 times, because we lived on opposite ends of the country. Still, we exchanged cards for every holiday, and somehow, we built a special bond despite the distance. Yesterday afternoon, my mother called. She asked if it was a good time to talk because she had a sensitive topic to discuss. She told me she was writing my grandpa's obituary and mentioned who he wanted listed as survived by and preceded in death by. To my surprise, she shared that my grandpa had requested to include my son's name under the latter. He loved him and spoke of him with joy, even until the end. My mother called to ask for my permission to honor his request. I said yes, and I've been sobbing ever since. Over the past year and a half, it feels like everyone has forgotten about my son. No one wants to talk about him because it feels awkward. I haven't heard one family member say his beautiful name except for my mother. It hurts to feel like your child, your only child, is forgettable and makes others uncomfortable. But not my grandpa. He proudly shared stories about his great-grandson right up until his passing, even requesting to include him by name in his own obituary, a name that no one else wants to say. After that phone call, I've been overwhelmed with layers of grief. I miss my son, and I miss my grandpa. I don't necessarily believe in the afterlife, but I like to think they've finally met and are together somewhere, and that thought brings me comfort. Yet, there's also the pain of knowing there's one less person on this earth who remembers him, one less person who cares. Amidst this sorrow, I feel an overwhelming love and appreciation too. It's hard to describe, but it feels like my grandpa is still looking out for me. Even after his death, his request to include my son feels like a reminder that he's still here for us. His obituary will be posted within the next week. I'm trying to brace myself, but it's difficult. I know it's going to be beautifully tragic.
I told my pregnant coworker she needs to do better, and it upset her. So here's the situation. I'm a 24-year-old chef at a small cafe, and one of my colleagues, let's call her Linda, often confides in me. I consider us friends, but she shares a lot about her personal life, her boyfriend, his son, and the challenges they face together. Linda's fiancé has a 6-year-old son from a previous relationship, and she knew this when they started dating. Recently, she opened up about her struggles with him. One day, she left the room for about 30 minutes, and when she returned, she found that the little boy had eaten her food. She lost her temper and yelled at him, saying he was always a problem and that she needed space from him. I snapped. I told her she needed to grow up and do better. I reminded her that she chose to be in a relationship with someone who has a child, and it wasn't fair to take her frustrations out on an innocent boy. I pointed out that he already had a tough situation with his mother and deserved kindness, not anger. I asked her how she would treat her own child if she was already struggling to accept this little boy. I told her she had the chance to be a wonderful stepmother, but she needed to change her approach. Now, she's been giving me the silent treatment for 2 days. I know I might have overstepped, but she asked for my opinion, and I felt it was important to speak up.
Throw away because my wife knows my main. I'm watching my family unravel because our daughter, who is 16, came out as transgender, and my wife refuses to accept her. I love them both, but I feel completely lost. I've been married to Sarah for 17 years, and we have one child, Lily. Back in April, Lily sat us down and shared her truth. She told us she wanted to go by Lily now. I hugged her and told her I loved her, diving into everything I could find to support her. Sarah, however, responded with a firm no, as if it were an option, and has been in denial ever since. The last 8 months have been unbearable. Sarah constantly misgenders Lily, calling it a phase or a social contagion. She leaves articles around the house that are hurtful and dismissive. Lily moved into the basement because Sarah said she couldn't bear to see her in a skirt. I helped paint it lavender and hang fairy lights, trying to make it a safe space. I bring her food like she's in hiding, and Sarah and I barely speak anymore. I sleep on the couch while she cries in the shower every night. 2 months ago, I signed the consent for Lily to start low-dose hormone therapy. When Sarah found the medication in the trash, she was so upset she got sick. Lily is starting to glow now, with real smiles and a softer voice, finally sleeping without nightmares. But Sarah sees every happy moment as proof that I'm helping mutilate our son. Last week, Lily asked if she could move to Portland after this semester to live with my sister, who is fully supportive and has a room ready. I agreed before I even thought it through because staying here is slowly destroying her, and I can't bear to watch that. I haven't told Sarah yet. I don't know how to break the news. I fear that when I do, Lily leaving will be seen as my fault, and it will sever any remaining bond between mother and daughter. But if I say no, Lily will continue to suffer under Sarah's refusal to accept her. I'm so tired. I love my wife. 17 years of shared memories, a life built together. But I also love my daughter, and she is finally becoming who she is. I can't force them both to stay and be miserable. If I let Lily go, I might lose her, and probably my marriage too. I don't know what to do. All I know is that someone I love is going to end up hurt, and I'm terrified it will be all of us.
I got chemically attacked last night, and while panicking, I did something horrible. My family went on a trip yesterday, and with 5 younger siblings, we needed 2 hotel rooms. I shared a room with 2 of my younger siblings, while my parents and the others were in the second room. Around 3 a.m., I was still on my phone when I heard some commotion in the hallway. A few voices were arguing, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. Eventually, I decided to call the front desk about it, but then it hit me. My eyes and nose suddenly felt like they were under attack. There was no scent, just an overwhelming pain. I woke my siblings and told them we needed to run to the emergency exit for fresh air. Halfway there, a terrifying thought crossed my mind. What if the rest of my family was still asleep in room number 2? I didn't know what this chemical was or if it could harm someone without waking them up. So I ran back, pounded on their door, and then took off for the emergency exit. I waited outside with my younger siblings, trying to breathe through the panic. I grew scared because my family took a long time to escape. It turned out they were awake and heard the commotion in the hall. When they heard me bang on their door, they thought I was one of the attackers. They shouted, "Who's there?" But I didn't hear them. I was too focused on escaping the chemical. Because of my actions, my family was trapped in there for nearly a minute, including my 3-year-old sister, who's probably traumatized. We think it was bear spray, which means there won't be any permanent damage to us, but it was still agonizing at the time. Why did I have to pound on that door? My panic caused so much more pain than necessary, and I know it probably traumatized my sister. Evacuating my little siblings was terrifying, and I wish I had known the chemical wasn't lethal. Trying to comfort my baby sister was so hard. She was shaking, thinking she was cold, but she was warm to the touch. She just didn't know how to process her fear. I've been reflecting on this experience, and while I expected some people to tell me I did my best, I also feared others would be angry at me for putting my family in danger. The kind words I've received have brought me some comfort. I'm still struggling, but knowing that others believe I handled it okay makes this guilt a little more bearable.
I was raped by a coworker, and it has now cost my family everything we had. 6 months ago, I shared a part of my story, promising to update it eventually. I made a throwaway account to keep this private. At a work party, I was in college, and she was a career waitress. I had just come out of a long-term relationship that shattered me. I wanted nothing to do with anyone, no intimacy, no connections. I took the job at the restaurant to keep busy and earn a little extra money. She flirted with me at work, but I turned her down kindly, explaining I wasn't ready for a relationship. I had no interest in anyone. After a couple of drinks at the party, I blacked out, something that rarely happened to me. I woke up at sunrise, half naked, with her beside me. I felt confused and unhappy. I slipped away, got dressed, and walked home, passing out for over 12 hours and missing my shift the next day. When I reported what happened, I was met with disbelief and ridicule. I walked out and never returned. 15 years later, I discovered she had a baby. We are now trying to find out if it's mine. This thought consumes me every day. I dread what we will do if he is mine. She seems focused on money, believing we are well off, but we are far from it. Life has been a series of financial struggles for us. My wife dropped her insulin today, shaking with anxiety over our uncertain future. Everything feels like a mess. As it turns out, the child is mine. We were hit with a massive child support order, and we hope to catch up over time. Then the pandemic hit, and we both lost our jobs. Bills piled up, but we managed to keep food on the table, holding on to hope. Today I went to buy groceries, and my card was declined. I felt embarrassed, thinking it was a mistake. But no, the state seized the little money we had left. I had no way to buy food or my wife's insulin. Now, I sit in my car, unsure how to tell my wife just how dire our situation has become. You can do everything right and still end up at the bottom. I wish my family didn't have to suffer because of my past. But amidst this darkness, someone from the community is sending us a month's supply of insulin. I can't express how grateful we are for the support we've received. We put our kids to bed and are overwhelmed by the kindness we've encountered. Thank you all.
I had to tell someone about my homelessness, and I'm so embarrassed. I'm a 25-year-old woman, and I've been homeless for about 6 months now. I've hidden it so well, but I don't know why it's been so hard to get approved for a room or a new place. For a while, I lived in my car, showering at the gym, and juggling 2 jobs made it easy to keep up the facade. But then I lost my second job when the shop closed down. My full-time job is waitressing. Over a year ago, a guy started coming in regularly after work for a beer. We became friends, bonding over our shared love of history. We hung out and went to a few movies, but I never let him get too close. I even lied and told him I had my own apartment. Last night, a terrible snowstorm hit. When he walked in, I was shocked. He came because I had mentioned my fear of driving in the snow, wanting to help me get home. I insisted I would dig out my car and find a way. But panic set in, because I didn't have anywhere for him to drop me off. In that moment, I had to say it out loud. I live in my car. The embarrassment was overwhelming, and I felt like I wanted to disappear. He offered me his spare bedroom for the night, but I couldn't sleep at all. I lay there, feeling a tight pain in my chest from the shame. I cried silently until about 4 a.m. and woke up at 6, my eyes swollen and red. Now, we're about to get coffee. And he's even taking me to get my car before he heads to work. He owns a business and a house, which makes this even more humiliating. When I woke up, I felt like how my friends describe feeling after a night of bad choices. I don't drink, but now I understand that feeling all too well. I never wanted to be a burden on a friend like this. I was genuinely trying to find a place and fix my finances, but the lying only made things worse. As I prepare to face him, it's clear I've been crying all night. As someone who has never cried in front of anyone, I feel utterly sick.
I shipped products straight to my house when I worked at Best Buy. I used to work in inventory at Best Buy. If someone ordered an item online and our store was the closest one with it in stock, we fulfilled that order. I spent my days finding products, boxing them up, labeling them, and piling them up for the daily UPS pickup. It didn't take long for me to realize that Best Buy's system didn't check what packages were picked up. UPS didn't care what was in that pile. So I started boxing up MacBooks, cameras, smartwatches, anything I wanted. I slapped my own label on those boxes and tossed them into the pile. Sure enough, the UPS guy would scan everything into their system, and Best Buy had no idea what had just left. The loss prevention team would be baffled by how items were just vanishing. Everything I took would show up at my house, which was just half a mile away from the store. This went on for about 4 years, and I never got caught. I even hinted at this loophole to my manager during my last few months there. To clarify, I wasn't waiting for items to be ordered and then slapping another label on them. That would have been foolish. The items were never ordered, so they were never recorded in Best Buy's system. All that was tracked was the stock count, which could take weeks to notice. I literally took items off the warehouse shelf, boxed them up, and placed my own label on them before tossing them in the UPS pickup pile. UPS didn't care as long as it had a label, and Best Buy only worried about labels printed from their system for tracking. My label, printed at home, was just picked up and put on the truck because it was a scheduled pickup. This was over 10 years ago, and the cameras then were terrible. There was no coverage of the shipping workstation, so all they saw was me and my coworkers boxing hundreds, if not thousands, of packages every day. I, a student teacher, secretly corrected my students' spelling test so the class can get a pizza party. I'll start student teaching in a 4th grade special education class in September. My teacher told the students that if all 12 of them got 100% on their spelling tests, we could have a pizza party. So far, that hadn't happened yet. This past Monday, my teacher said, "This is Miss K's last week with us. Let's all work really hard to finally get that pizza party." The kids were excited. During their free time, they studied their words with an enthusiasm I had never seen before. But there was a difficult dynamic between Gabby and Sam. Sam has severe dyslexia and struggles with spelling, while Gabby constantly picked on her for it. My teacher and the school took it seriously and intervened, but Gabby still found ways to tease Sam. After my teacher's announcement, Gabby shouted, "Can you make sure that Sam studies since she's really bad at spelling?" Even at just 9 years old, her passive-aggressive comments frustrated me. Sam practiced hard for the spelling test. I even stayed after school to help her study. On Friday morning, right before the test, she was in tears, worried she would be the only one to fail and ruin the pizza party. I reassured her that she had worked so hard and was smart. For the test, our teacher would say the spelling words out loud, and most students had the same set of words. Sam had a slightly different list, which was a bit easier. I noticed that when the teacher whispered Sam's words, Gabby would sometimes snicker. I couldn't stand it. We had addressed this before, but Gabby's behavior didn't change. Finally, I lost it. That Friday, when Gabby snickered again, I went up to her and whispered firmly, "I will take your test and fail you right now if you don't stop. You'll ruin the pizza party for everyone." She started crying in her seat, but I didn't care. Maybe it would finally get through to her. Once the kids finished, I collected the tests. After they went to lunch, my teacher handed me the tests to grade. I started grading, feeling proud as I saw 100% after 100%. When I got to Gabby's test, it was perfect too. I finished grading and every single test was 100%. I was thrilled for them. But then I realized I only had 11 tests. Sam's test was on my teacher's desk. I went through her test and saw she spelled all the words correctly. I had never felt so proud. But then it hit me. The last word, a challenge word, was spelled incorrectly. She wrote because as becues. I was still proud of her for getting 9 out of 10 correct. She had never scored that high before, and sight words were very challenging for her. But I knew the other students would figure out that Sam ruined the pizza party for them. I could talk to my teacher about letting them have the pizza party anyway, but she is strict about the rules. Everyone needs to get a 100%. I couldn't let Sam feel like a failure or face more bullying, so I made a decision. I erased the U and the A in becues and switched them. Sam probably wouldn't notice, and I wouldn't tell her, or she would feel bad. She would eventually learn how to spell because I needed her to have this moment. When the kids came back from recess, they were told the good news. They were so excited. Sam beamed with pride. I came back on Monday for the pizza party, and it felt like a small victory for all of us. To my wife, I know you're in love with another man, and that's okay. Dear wife, I first met you when I was 19. Now at 34, I still remember the moment I laid eyes on you. You know how people say, it was love at first sight? I used to think it was a silly cliche, but that night it was real for me. You were like a Renaissance painting come to life, with your emerald green eyes, smooth skin, and wavy dark hair. Your voice rang like bells, and your smile was radiant. I was your first kiss, your first boyfriend, your first love. We dated for 2 years before you broke up with me over a silly argument I can't even recall. We were apart for a year, and then you came back into my life. We spent nearly 3 years together before you broke up with me again when I was 25. You were scared of how fast things were moving and wanted to be free. I let you go, but it hurt deeply. We were practically engaged by then, and I was already sketching ring designs. I dated other women, but none of them were like you. You also dated others, some good, some not so great, and some truly awful. I remember holding you as you cried after one of your boyfriends had yelled at you, leaving bruises on your cheeks. Then one day, less than 2 years after our last breakup, you told me you were engaged to one of the good ones. I went to your wedding. You looked like a queen, just as beautiful as the day we met. I always thought I would be the groom, but wedded bliss didn't last long for you. After just a few months, your husband passed away in a tragic accident, and you miscarried your child. I watched as you spiraled into a whirlwind of depression, anxiety, and addiction. I stood by you through it all, witnessing your pain as you buried your husband and your unborn child. I saw you collapse to the ground, watering the fresh earth with your tears. Years later, we reconnected. You were recovering, more like the girl I once knew. Your laughter was fewer and far between, but it was still there. Your eyes were harder now, weary and tired. Yet despite everything, I still loved you. And deep down, I knew you loved me too. Before you turned 30, you married me. Sometimes it hardly feels real. I wake in the night and hear you breathing beside me, and a wave of joy washes over me when I realize it's you. Still, I know I don't have your heart completely. A piece of it is buried in a small graveyard by the sea, where your name is written on a tombstone, with a blank space after the hyphen. Some nights you wake up crying and won't tell me why. But I know. Sometimes when I wrap my arms around you, I sense that you close your eyes and pretend it's him. I understand, and it's all right. I love you, and that's what matters. As long as you love me too. Love is infinite, and your love for him cannot diminish your love for me. I know that.
I found an old voicemail from my mom, and now I can't look at her the same. I'm shaking while writing this, so I apologize if it's all over the place. I'm Lily, 20, Latina, raised by a single mom. If you're Latina, you probably get the vibe already. My mom doesn't do emotions. Everything is about being tough, working hard, and never talking about feelings. She always told me, don't cry, be strong. I didn't raise a weak one. I grew up quietly scared of her, not because she was abusive, but because she was just so hard, like nothing could hurt her. Yesterday, while cleaning her old phone, she gave it to me to use. I stumbled upon a random voicemail from about 5 years ago. No name, just a number. I don't know why I clicked it. It was my mom, crying, really crying. I've never heard her cry like that before. She was talking to my aunt, saying she didn't know how to be a good mom. She felt like she was failing me. She said, I want to be strong for her, but it's destroying me. I just sat there, listening, thinking, that's my mom? The same woman who tells me crying is useless. She cried because she couldn't afford my birthday that year. She cried because she worked so much, she felt like a ghost. She cried because she didn't know how to show love without being controlling. She said she never learned how to be soft, that nobody was soft with her. I can't even explain how it hit me. For 19 years, I thought she didn't care when I cried. Now I realize she probably cried after I did, where I couldn't see it. I feel guilty for ever thinking she didn't love me. And I also feel angry that she never showed me any of that. We could have been so much closer if she had just said, I'm scared. But Latina moms don't say that. They'd rather suffer in silence than admit they're breaking. Now, every time I hear her say, be strong, I feel like she's talking to herself. I haven't told her I heard it. I don't think I ever will. She would deny everything, make a joke, or tell me to stop being dramatic. But I look at her differently now. Not as this unbreakable person, but as someone who had to become unbreakable because nobody helped her. I'm sorry if this doesn't make sense. I just needed to tell someone.